and thank you for joining us for another episode of Just Off College Avenue. Today, we are going to be talking with Damean Matthews. He is currently a high school English teacher at Tazewell, as well as doing writing workshops in Abingdon. So I'm going to toss it over to Damean to tell us a little bit more about himself.
Hey, so I am Damean Matthews, 2015 graduate of UVA-Wise. Gosh, how has it been 10 years? I've been writing for most of my life, obsessed with literature, with the written word. Really just, it's kind of what makes me who I am. Huge nerd, obviously, with the Wolverine shirt. So that's really, that's me mostly.
Well, hey, all good things. Thank you for giving us a little bit of a brief. As you mentioned, you've been writing and you've loved writing for a long time. So today we're actually going to be talking about that passion and how you've been able to turn your passion into something that you get to do on a daily basis. As you said, you graduated UVA-Wise in 2015. Since then, you've also obtained your master's in literature. You're done journalism, you've been a library assistant, obviously an English teacher, and a freelance writer. So your passion is kind of embedded into the fabric of what you do and what you've been doing in your career. When did you realize that writing and literature really needed to be the main focus in your life? Can you talk about how that drove your career planning?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've always been a huge reader, never really was into sports or anything like that. I would always choose books over humans most of the time when it came to entertainment, so that was just kind of who I was. I kind of started out wanting to either rewrite books that I thought needed a better ending or try to write sequels where there weren't sequels. It was probably junior year of high school when it really hit me that, hey, this is what I'm meant to do. Writing kind of actually saved my life, but that's a whole other story. But I think it really started driving my education and my career goals probably when I got my first publication, which was 2011, I think.
Wow.
That was probably the thing that really was like, this is more than just my brain. This can actually be something, so.
Yes. Oh, I didn't know that your first one was in 2011, and so that means that you've got quite a few years of publications under your belt. So I love that. And as your literary interests have evolved, because, I mean, from being in 11th grade, where it really started to, like, hit you, like, this is what you need to do, to now, how has that evolved? And then how have you been able to connect with communities that helped you to hone your skills and share your knowledge with others?
Yeah, so with that first publication, that was the Clinch Mountain Review at Southwest Virginia Community College, and that was my first experience, seeing my name and my words on paper. And there was a gala after that where I got to speak with other authors and kind of be involved there. So it really, I'm not sure if I pursued it or it pursued me more after that, but once I got here to UVA-Wise, I actually became part of Jimson Weed. Eventually, I was managing editor of Jimson Weed for 2.5 years, give or take, of my time here, and that moved into the newspaper here on campus. I was head news writer for my senior year of college here in 2014-15. That moved into Bristol Herald Courier, so I've always just kind of been able to steer myself with the literary bent in my life, and it's honestly always treated me very well. I've been able to do different symposiums, different workshops, different groups. Honestly, if I find any way that I can exploit the written word for myself, then I'm going to jump on it.
Completely makes sense to me. I know you're talking about a lot of different clubs and organizations, and even to the symposium, which was definitely involved some networking and like getting to know people. Yeah. Were there any online spaces that also helped you when you were curating your communities and finding support for your publications later on?
Yeah, a lot of the online things I did. I always say that there's never a bad way to go if you're looking for online publications or online support for writing. And of course, Facebook. It's the old man website now, but there are tons of writing groups there. That's one of the places that I kind of steered myself towards in my youth, I guess. But realistically, Joining an authors guild was really a cool thing for me. I joined the Appalachian Authors Guild several years ago, and they've got an online presence. Um, there wasn't as much online here when I was here, but there are tons more now that are geared more towards online. One of the places you mentioned freelance writing earlier.
Yes.
One of the places that I got into that was freelancewritinggigs.com. They're a little odd. It's almost like the writing version of Craigslist at times, because you've got to weed your way through the less reputable requests. But when you find gold, you really can find gold.
Well, thank you for those recommendations and that information. And you mentioned the Appalachian Authors Guild. Did you find them through like a reference, or how did you stumble upon them? I know it's kind of a weird follow-up question, but
Yeah, so with the Appalachian Authors Guild, the very first published author I met was Linda Hoagland. I met her, gosh, early 2000s, way before I was really ready to start writing seriously. But she was a member of the guild. She still is a member of the guild. And there are different organizations and different events. For instance, the Virginia Highlands Festival in Abingdon. The guild always has tables and spaces there. So I just kind of was able to move into that network of friends, I guess, really, because they're all just really close friends, really close acquaintances. And I moved into there, and I started getting requests when I started Southwest, and when I started being published in the Clinch Mountain Review. Some of the members would say, hey, come join us, get into our club, get into our group. So that was really, it was purely networking, almost accidentally, when I discovered them, but they're a huge resource at this point.
Yes, I love that they were very much, come with us, let's go.
Yeah.
Some communities aren't as like, I'm bringing you along with me. So I'm really glad to hear that they were willing to take you under their wing. So as you have mentioned, you're a published author, right? Which is amazing. What motivated you to pursue publication initially?
So the very first, when I really wrote my first couple of stories, I would let some friends read them, and I didn't get any negative commentary other than, hey, alter some of this dialogue or fix this, nothing like that. But content-wise, I got really, really positive commentary. So I decided I was going to give it a shot. And then I did submit, and ironically enough, the story that I submitted for the Clinch Mountain Review publication is still one of my least favorite stories I've ever written.
Wow.
But it was my first published story, so that's really cool for me. But I just decided, I'm going to give it a shot and see what happens. My first huge publication attempt was way over my head. I tried to submit to Francis Ford Coppola's magazine, Zoetrope. I got a very standard and stiff form rejection letter from that, but I didn't let it stop me. I went on and kept trying, but that's really what it was, is just my love of literature and the fact that other people that I did let read my stories enjoyed them. I said, hey, there's got to be something here.
Yes, and I'm glad that you kept going and you didn't let the rejection deter you from being able to continue with your passion.
Yeah.
I know some people, they don't have as strong of a community around them to help encourage them. Like you had people who are giving you positive commentary. I mean, obviously they were giving you a little bit of criticism just to help you make your writing better, but they weren't saying like, hey, you should really stop doing this, which is great to hear. So do you have any advice for other creatives don't have that good of a group around them and may feel overwhelmed in following their passions?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing that I always want to tell anyone who has doubts about themselves is, you have your idea, whether it's writing, music, art, you have your idea because that idea came to you. There's nobody else on this earth that can do it the way you can do it. So even if you write it or draw it or compose it and you lock it away in a closet and nobody else ever gets it, that's yours. That's your baby. Let it out. Don't stifle your creative voice. Never doubt yourself, even if the only person you create for is you.
As people have said, I've heard them say, the world needs your art. So we want to see it. And for those who, you were mentioning like putting it in the closet, like bring it out. If they are having confidence issues, is there anything that you practiced or worked on to make yourself more confident that might help them as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and this is people. When you say this, people often just say, "Do you really do this?" But I do. When you have something that you do have doubts about, if you can't quite grasp what it is you're doubting, if it's written, look in the mirror, read it out loud, or record yourself reading it, play it back. I know we all hate the sound of our own voices, but it's going to help. It's going to help you see maybe where you have some weak points, if there are any. It's going to help you see how you can adjust it to suit your own tastes better. And another thing is just find that group, even if it's just a single solitary person. Find someone that you know is going to give you the truth, even if the truth is, this kind of sucks, dog, If that's the truth, you got to have somebody that's going to be willing to tell you that, but you can't let it discourage you, even if this particular piece is not your best. I think it was Hemingway, I'm pretty sure it was Hemingway that said the first draft of everything is complete crap. So first drafts are not going to be the next great American novel. So
sometimes you got to work on yourself and work on your works to get them to a place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I agree with you 100%. So as being an English teacher, has that kind of helped or aided in your ability to keep a regular writing schedule, or has it kind of made it a little bit harder? Because I know teaching can sometimes become a lot, right?
Oh, yeah. As I was telling you when I first got here, this is my first year out of 5 high school years of a non-SOL class, so that takes a little bit of pressure off. I've got all seniors this year, and they're great. So it does kind of help a little to alleviate some of that. But I'm a bit of a glutton for punishment, so I get up at 4 a.m.
Oh my goodness.
to write before I leave for work, and I don't leave for work until generously 6:15, give or take. I do live an hour from my school, so that gives me plenty of time to brainstorm and audiobook and everything else. Sometimes hate my life while I'm driving, but anyway. But yeah, I get up at 4. I start writing, whether that is new material or editing old material or just journaling so I can kind of get that creative juice flowing, whatever it is. I do think having that somewhat rigid schedule helps because let me tell you, we had virtual days the last 2 days of last week, and I got maybe 3 pages written. It was not good for me.
Well, yeah, you mentioned, having that schedule. I mean, I know 4:15 in the morning is really early to get up, but I feel like you don't have anything else on your mind at that time, right?
Yeah,
so you're
absolutely.
coming into it very maybe clear-headed or with ideas from dreams and things. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And for maybe those students who are in a creative rut right now, or maybe having some problems with doing their passion on a regular basis, do you have any tips for that? I know you have been doing the scheduling piece. Is there any other pieces that have helped?
Yeah, definitely. So for me, it helps just to know what gives you that little bit of inspiration. And it does come from all over the place for different people. For me, it's get out in nature a little bit if you can. I know 4 o'clock in the winter, it's sometimes kind of cold, so that might not work. But find a piece of music or a piece of art or a movie that really inspires you. Let it play in the background while you're trying to create. That will always kind of open the door up. Ironically, since I do write a lot of horror, it's funny that sappy 90s love songs inspire me to write horror, and I don't know if that's just because it makes me want to theoretically murder the people on the screen there or what, but it works. But yeah, I always say finding whatever it is that inspires you, as even if it's something bizarre, like I said, 90s love songs. If it works for you, make it work for you. Put on that music, step outside, have your coffee in the cold if you can handle it, or in the hot in the summertime. Just get to your inspiration and let those muses work.
Very good advice. I love that. So I know that turning your passion into a career isn't easy. It's not a cakewalk. Can you talk about some of the struggles that you faced along the way and what helped you to refocus or reframe your situation so that you could keep following your passion?
Yeah, definitely. That's a good question. So for me, it's always a matter of remembering why I do it. I do love the written word. Like I said, I've always been obsessed with reading and with writing. So even if something rough happens, I've gotten plenty of rejections from different journals, from different agents, from different publications. I've gotten those no thanks offers quite a bit, or not offers, no thanks letters quite a bit. But you can't let it slow you down. I mean, at the end of the day, like you said earlier, the world does need your work. It's there in your brain for a reason. So I fully believe in, even if you have to force yourself to get it out there sometimes, it's worth putting in that effort and putting in, sometimes the blood, sweat, and tears against all odds to make it happen. You just can't let yourself be slowed down by rejection, and it's not always easy to stand up to. I've had to do it a lot, but I've had some good things happen too. I've actually, one of the coolest things that I've gotten to do is become really good friends with Dacre Stoker, who is Bram Stoker's great-great-grandnephew. Like, I've gone to lunch with him. I've podcasted with him a couple of times. We have routine communication. He's just an amazing human being. And if it wasn't for my writing and my obsession with vampires and horror, I never would have had that connection. So it's a matter of figuring out how to make your passion work for you the way you want it to.
Wow. Didn't know that you were friends with him. That's pretty freaking cool.
It's awesome.
I'm sure the conversations, get really, really in depth, really wild. I'm sure they're great.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, sorry, I'm pivoting. I'm just reeling because I'm like, wow, that's so cool. So what I'm hearing too is you got to believe in yourself, even if you get the no's. Like, you're going to be your biggest supporter, right?
Yeah,
the whole
absolutely.
time.
And at the same time, we are always our own worst critic. You can have 16 best friends tell you this is a great piece of work, but if you notice a typo that they didn't, you're going to hate yourself. But you've got to remember, stuff happens. Like I said, that first draft is always going to be the worst one you always write. And even final drafts aren't always final. Authors that have been published for 20 years will still go back and resubmit and redo and republish a work if they decide they want to change it up some. So there's no set in stone end to your talent, to your ability, to your skill, to your creation. You can always change it if there's something about it you don't like.
Absolutely. Revisions are expected. You're not perfect the first time.
If we all could be, we'd be, very great.
Oh, yeah. What would be the point in, pursuing things? You're like, everybody's perfect at everything all the time.
Yeah, you got to be able to learn, and that's one key thing, too, is you have to be able to roll with the punches. You've got to be able to take that constructive criticism. You have to be able to learn from your own mistakes, even if they're not necessarily mistakes, a misused word here or a typo there. It's not necessarily a mistake or something that is horribly incorrect. Could just be, you fumbled a little, or you were writing when you were asleep, or autocorrect is a horrible, horrible thing sometimes.
Yes.
But yeah, you've got to be able to learn from those things and not let it cause you to completely stumble or falter.
I agree 100%. 100%. And I know that sometimes we'll stumble, right? But that's okay, because we're going to have triumphs and wins. So over your writing career, has there been a particular work that you're extremely proud of and has, kind of given you inspiration and sparked you to continue forward as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first novel that I really, really got started was Maverick, which is my vampire novel, or my vampire series. It was originally going to be one huge novel that ended up being like 154,000 words, so had to cut that. But I actually, that's a novel that I started in my junior year of high school. It took me 10 years to complete it. It was a wild ride. I actually wrote a lot of it while I was here at college at UVA Wise. Actually went out there and wrote by the pond several times while I was here. But that work, just being able to go back and look and see the inspiration that I had and see what I've done with it. I'm actually, I split that original book into two, and I'm now working on part 3. And I've got people at local libraries that will reach out and say, hey, when is part 3 coming out? And that's a really cool thing for me to be able to say that there are people waiting on a work of mine. So I feel like that is one of my biggest success stories, and it took me, like I said, 10 years to write it, so that's not necessarily the easiest to stick with for 10 full years. But once it's done, I mean, it's kind of bittersweet. It took me a little bit to accept the fact that I was ready to publish it, but now it's out there.
Yes, and I'm sure the evolution of that piece of work over 10 years was dramatic. Like
Oh,
from where you
yeah.
started and what you thought the vision was going to be versus where it was when you finally published it.
Definitely, yeah. And I usually try to start with handwriting, at least the beginning of my books. So going back and looking at that original notebook and those angsty teen scrawls, oh Lord, my voice has definitely evolved. So that's another good thing to see, that you can actually monitor that when you're writing, especially if you do create multiple versions, or if you handwrite before you type it in or whatever. But you can notice your own evolution, and that is another thing that will inspire you to keep going, because you can actually see yourself getting better, which I definitely recommend.
Oh, yeah. I feel like a lot of creatives and artists, so like writing or doing music or like physical painting, drawing, when you look back and you see how much you've progressed, it's so satisfying. And I think
Absolutely.
sometimes people who are not in a creative field, or they don't have a creative passion that they do on the side, they don't get to witness their growth as much, like
Yeah.
with their communication skills or things of that nature. They don't realize like how much they've grown. So it's like immediate reflection every time you look
Yeah,
back.
absolutely. And that it does make a big difference. Like I said, if you can look at something you created 10, 15 years ago and see who you were then and see who you are today, I mean, sometimes it's honestly, you don't even realize that you're the same person, because you've gone through so much, and your creative outlets have grown so much to adapt with you. It's wild. It can be pretty crazy.
Oh yeah, and then you probably will see how human experience
Oh
really
yeah,
just comes in and shapes or reshapes something.
definitely. Yeah.
So, well, the one question that I always ask all of our guests, no matter what, is what has been keeping you curious lately? So, whether it's a book or a podcast, or just maybe it's an article that you've ran across, is there anything like that that's been
Yeah.
keeping you curious?
So I am like everybody else right now. I'm a victim to TikTok. So I fall into TikTok rabbit holes a lot, and there are a lot of Appalachian pages and stories that talk about the cryptids in our area, which I'm of
Mm-hmm.
course obsessed with. I've got a short
Absolutely.
story collection about some of those cryptids myself, but I'll follow those pages and I'll kind of go into those rabbit holes, and I'll go back and look at research and any kind of monster or cryptid or supernatural element of our area that I can find.
Mm-hmm.
I fall into it and I'll get stuck in it. Actually, I was late to the game, but I did get into Old Gods of Appalachia a
Yeah.
couple of years ago. I'm actually all caught up except for the first episode that was released this year, so I'm going to listen to that on the way home. But that entire series is just fantastic, and it's not all based on actual things that are legends around
Mm-hmm.
here, but enough of it is based on legend that you can really kind of use that to help creative resources as well. So
Mm-hmm.
any kind of supernatural, cryptid, monster, horrifying thing I can find, that's my curious space.
Yes, and you mentioned Old Gods of Appalachia. That they created like a whole world that you can get
Yeah.
immersed in, which is really cool. So, how can students connect with you and find your publications? Is there a best or a preferred place?
Yeah, so I do have my website, just damianmatthews.com. I'm available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and anywhere you find books or ebooks. I also do have social media presence. Mr. Author 91 is myself on TikTok and Instagram. You can just search my name for Facebook and for my author page there. One cool thing that I've also started to do lately is a pen pal group. So for
Ooh.
people who are interested in letter writing, I'm trying to resurrect that love of non-instant communication. So we've got 70 or so people on the page already. I've got I think 16 people who've actively shared addresses, and we've all been writing back and forth. We're slowly branching out of the immediate area. I've got some Milwaukee, I've got some Georgia.
Wow.
I'm trying to get some overseas addresses as well, but definitely SWVA and Beyond Pen Pal group is that. If there are any letter writing humans out there that want to join us. But yeah, I'm all over the place. I do try to do as many events as I can too. You can usually find up-to-date information on my events, just on my event page on my website. So.
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming and sharing all about your passion and how you were able to turn it into something that you get to do as a career. And I'm going to make sure I share everything in the notes so people can connect with you and reach out. But thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's so great to be back on campus and get to hopefully help inspire other students,
Yes. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode of Just Off College Avenue. You know where to check to find things that we talked about in the episode. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.